I haven't made one of these in a while, and seeing as there is a new build out, I figured I'd make one that is updated for the new game standards. So let's begin. So first you're going to make a chassis shape. I kind of make mine a little like this. They're about yay big. Perfect square gives me a good base. And you're going to want to shrink it down to the lowest layer. You're going to click that. You're going to usually use option 1 for your chassis. It's the best collision option. And then next, I go to Materials, click a panel on the chassis, use this little scroll wheel to click on this little thing down here, and I go to Hardox. And I click this, and set for all sides. And your base layer of the chassis is complete. So what you're going to do next is you're going to open this little side menu, click on Mirror, and then you're going to get one of the shapes down below, bring it onto the chassis, and you can move it around. I usually leave snap on, and the default snap setting is usually 0.025, but I would not recommend leaving it on 0.025. I would recommend putting it on 0.005. It allows for much smoother movement and allows you to place things a lot more precisely than you normally would be able to. So once you place it, you just place it with a click. You can drag it around using these arrows. And once you get it in the place you want, drag it to the edge here, and you click on this little S in the corner. Once you click on the S, you can rescale the part to how you want it. I usually make my panels about this thick. Once you're like that, do this, lower it down a bit, and then stretch it until it meets both ends of the chassis. And you can see that this part is red. Right now it's reading that it's unwelded. How to weld a part is you go to Materials, make it a texture, and click Hardox to weld a chassis panel like this. And it has to be touching something. A panel that is not touching something, say these two panels right here, will be unwelded and thus cannot function properly and will fall off if you attempt to spawn the robot in. So you must connect it using another piece. Say this one. You can move it and boom, the piece is now welded. So, what you're going to do for the front and back panels is you're going to uncheck Mirror, you're going to drag it to the back, turn it around, and just position it and resize it to where you want it. Like so. Congratulations! You now have a base chassis to use for your robot. Next, we're going to be putting in the drive motors. Now, you have a varied selection of drive motors to choose from, such as the TP100 motors. These are good for quick and speedy drive, but are quite tall. So if you're making a robot that is shorter, I would not recommend using them. You have cat motors, which are your standard brushless motors. They're not too powerful, but they're good mid-range motors to use if you're doing a robot that doesn't have too much drive. If you want something rather quick, you can use the Amplo A28-400. These are very quick motors and are very reliable. They're my motor of choice when it comes to drive setup, and I do recommend you use them too. So I will be using them while I'm building this robot. So, to place the motors down, you click Mirror. Oh, that is the wrong motor. Whoops. So you place them down, like so. And you click this R button here to rotate them how you want them. And just use the arrows and stuff to position them. Like so. And then you're going to want, if you have them set up like this, you're going to want to get a 90-degree gearbox medium and place them on the ends of the motors, like so. And then you can click on the motor and click this 2 square to 2 square button up at the top of this little side menu. And you can place down the motor with the gearbox attached, like so, and simply position them where you want them. And there. And you have a drive setup put in. Next, you're going to want to give your robot some power to be able to drive the motors. So, to see how much energy the motors can take, you go to Controls, and you can click on one of the motors. The amp flows can take 36 volts max, and can take a current limit of 504 amps. So what we're going to do is, let me check to see what their amp limit. Okay, 36 volts. So what we are going to do is we're going to take two 18-volt Pro batteries per motor, like so. Perfect. And sometimes when you place your batteries down, you will notice that they turn red. Like if I move these away or move these slightly up, they will turn red. To fix this problem, I can either move my batteries slightly down to where they will slightly clip into the bottom of the frame and weld, or I can take a chassis panel and create framing within the robot to allow the batteries to weld to the robot. Now this, I do advise using this strategy, because that means you can take your batteries and you can move them up to prevent them from getting hit by other robots. Like so. And you have your battery drive set up. Alright. Next, we are going to move on to the ESCs and receiver. You only need one receiver per robot. Well, typically, unless your robot has a lot of controls. And you can place it anywhere you want. It doesn't really matter. So for example, I will place mine on this little panel here. Next, we will place down the ESCs. So for these motors, they can take either the 1.8A dual motor ESC, which I would not recommend as that is used for much smaller robots. You can use the 60 amp dual motor ESC, which I would also not recommend for amp flow drive. Or my selected ESC of choice, the 160 amp dual motor ESC. This can power two motors at once and is a very reliable ESC for amp flow drive. So I will place two of these down. And as you can see, they are not welding. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a panel and place it through the ESCs, like so, to mimic mounting. And then the ESCs will be mounted, and I can move them up so they don't get hit. Perfect. Your electronic setup is complete. Well, almost. The next thing that you have to do is you place down two port battery splitter hubs, and you can mirror them like so. So one hub will go to here, and the other hub will go to here. This allows for easier wiring and a more reliable battery setup. So, your electronic setup is now complete. So next, we're going to place on the top panel. Simply do it as you did with the panels before. And make sure to uncheck mirroring so this doesn't happen. And if you want, you could just delete the panel on the outside, and it'll ask you, the mirrored component can also be deleted. Do you want to delete it as well? You can just simply check no, so you don't have to replace the panel. And simply move it to where you want it, and stretch it like so. Your robot's internal setup is complete. Well, but it appears that your robot is not actually complete. So what you're going to do is you are going to place small cylinders on these little nubs here. And you'll notice when they're on, because suddenly the cylinder will stop moving with your mouse. So you place them on like so. And you shrink them down. You can move them however you want. I typically set my axles to titanium to save weight. And then we are going to be doing quarter cylinder wheels, which are the recommended wheel setup for robots. So what you're going to do is you place a quarter cylinder shape on the axle, and you move it to where the corner of the quarter cylinder takes up a quarter of the axle. Like so. And then you can move this quarter in and shrink it however you want. We'll do that. Well, you have to make sure that it looks perfectly round, or else you could get a wheel that is off-center or misshapen. So next, you click the single square to single square button and place another quarter cylinder on the end of the existing one and move it up to where it resembles a half cylinder. And then you click the first quarter cylinder and click the double square to double square button and place them on top. And simply rotate the quarter cylinders and move them to where they form a full circle. Like so. And then, to layer these, you click the first quarter cylinder you place down, and then the double square to double square button, and then you can place multiple of them on top. Sometimes grabbing and rotating the quarter cylinder wheels takes trial and error, because you will click on a quarter cylinder that doesn't happen to be the root quarter cylinder. You can decipher which one of the quarter cylinders is the root quarter cylinder when all the other ones turn green. As in, this is not the root, this is not the root, this is not the root, but this is the root. And simply rinse and repeat as many times as you would like. Oh. I did a little thing there where I clicked away from the quarter cylinder and lost track of it. To deselect a part, you simply click somewhere else where the part is not. So, we have our front wheels. Now, it would be tedious to do the same process over again. So you quickly just click on the axle, click the double square to double square, and mount the entire wheel on the axle. And boom, you have 4 tires. Now notice they are still blueprint material, so we need to make them not blueprint material. So you simply click on the wheels and click on the rubber option. Do this with all the slices. And if you're mirroring your wheels, you simply have to do it on one side, and it automatically copies to the other. Good work. Your robot now has 4 wheels. But it seemingly lacks a weapon. So, let's give it one. So, what you're going to do is going to click the wedge option and place it right here like so, on the front of the robot. But notice it's still mirrored, so I'm going to need to uncheck the mirror option and then place a triangle down. And now you have your first weapon, a wedge. Move the wedge to how you desire it, and boom, your robot now has a weapon. Simply make it whatever material you wish. And boom, you have your first robot. Now, even though you have completed the physical process, you still need to tune it via gearing and wire up the controls. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the top panel by dragging it up, and then click on the gearboxes. My preferred setup for amp flows is 1.5 to 0.5, and this will automatically mirror to this gearbox, if you have your motors mirrored. And then do the same to the back. 1.5 to 0.5. And then lower your top plate once more. The next step is to wire. Now, when you click on the screen, it does look like a daunting process, but trust me, it's not. Simply click and drag whatever component you need to your desired location. You can lay out the components in the same manner they would be laid out for the drive. It allows for easier ordering and allows you to tell which motor is which. So what you're going to do next is you're going to take these battery out little ports here, click and then drag them into series battery and release. It's as simple as that. And then you're going to wire the battery outs into the in ports on the 2-port battery splitter, and then wire the outs to the battery input on the dual motor ESC, and then wire the out inputs on the dual motor ESC to each amp flow. Rinse and repeat for the other side. Next, you can wire the motors. So you're going to take channel 1 and write to channel 1 here, and then channel 2 to channel 2 here, and then channel 3 into channel 1 here, and then channel 2 into channel 4 here. You can do this in any manner. You could connect channel 8 to channel 2 here, channel 5 to channel 1 here if you wish. It doesn't really matter. So next, you're going to click on the RC receiver and go to channel 1 and input left motor twice, because you're controlling the left motors. And on this side, you're going to put down the right motors, as you're controlling the right motors. And boom, your wiring is now done. Let us go test our robot out in the test box. You can either click on the test out option or the test in option. Test in is for more personal testing, as you can see what exactly is happening with your robot. Test out, you can push around bricks, barrels, soccer balls, and even soccer nets to see how your robot performs against objects. I prefer clicking the test in option. And oh, it looks like your wheels have come off. Do not fret, as this is a common occurrence. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on the cylinders, click the single square to single square, click mirror, place them down on the chassis, and simply drag them until they are in the center of the wheel. Drag them in slightly, and then make sure they poke out the other end. And do this with the front wheels as well. This creates a static axle for the wheels to fully weld to. So now, your robot should be working fine. Give me a brief moment. I don't know why they're actually not welding. Also, I will say don't mind the noise. That's just a bug that happens in the game, where the unwelded parts that fall off in the test box come back with you. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this long enough to actually go into the gearbox. Sometimes you encounter troubleshooting things like this. Where you have to just kind of maneuver to see what works correctly. And boom! Your robot is done. But do notice that it does drive backwards. Well, I may have wired it wrong, so just go click on the motors, and there's an easy fix. Just simply click reverse direction. And your robot should be fine and good to go. And boom! You have your first robot in Robot Rumble 2. And you can tune it to however you want, such as drive power, and you can even add a weapon on it as well. I might create a future tutorial on how to make weapons as well. And even more complex tutorials on how to make a robot that will pass in terms of the tourneys that we do on the main server. For now, you've created your first robot. But now, let's get into the fun part. You can color your robot as well. Simply click on a part, and click on the color that you want it to be. I want to be a red wedge with, a red robot with a blue wedge. Like so. And you can also do the whole set for all sides thing if you click on the main chassis at the bottom. And with quarter cylinder wheels like this, you can make the wheels have cool designs on them, such as alternating colors. And you are almost done. And boom. Now you have your very first working Robot Rumble 2 machine. Well, it needs a name. So simply click on this, click backspace, and come up with a name for your creation. Boom. You're done. And your robot should be fine and good to go. I will leave a link in the description for the Robot Rumble 2 Discord, where you can come download robots, chat with other people who play the game, learn new building techniques, and even more. And you can even ask questions there. if there was something that you want to know that wasn't answered in this tutorial. Well, anyways, here you go. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.